Preserving love in marriage requires certain knowledge and habits which, sadly, most of us did not acquire in our own families. But that does not prevent us from learning from those who have happy marriages. Their happiness is not an accident, but the result of their correct understanding of family life and a conscious and permanent effort to create harmonious interpersonal relationships in their lives. Their experience is valuable. We are fickle-minded. We might generally accept something is true, but in a particular situation we might forget about it and behave as if we weren't aware of that truth. For that reason, we need to understand that love is not something abstract, and any time our families are confronted with different situations or when negative emotions try to gain control, we need to remember that love is what counts the most and act in the name of it. We are not perfect, and neither is our spouse. Neither of us is a saint. Therefore, the only way to preserve love is to bear each other's weaknesses. If we find it difficult, impossible to bear it, it usually happens not because the other is truly awful, but because we are prideful and vain. We don't know how difficult it is for our spouse to live with our imperfections, and we think we deserve someone better. If we look at ourselves first, then we won't be too strict with others. After all, true love requires sacrifice. If we love or want to be loved, let's bear this burden with joy, like a proof of our love. When a man and a woman start building a family together, they enter a new stage of their life. They take responsibilities they didn't have before, like the happiness of their spouse, physical and spiritual integrity of their children. Sharing these responsibilities with others prevents them from growing up and becoming spouses in the full sense of the word. Therefore, if possible, it is better for the young family to have their own house, to live separately from their parents, since each family has their own way of living and rules, and the spouse who lives with their parents-in-law has to adapt to unfamiliar practices and habits. That is more difficult than getting used to the habits of our own spouse. And if our spouse might change their own habits for our sake, it is unlikely that their parents will. Even if we live separately, we still have to talk to them and the rest of our spouse's relatives. And even if we detach financially and emotionally from them, the influence of our parents, particularly in the first years of our marriage, is still very significant. Therefore, it is important to try to build warm and respectful relationships with our parents-in-law. They are not angels, but humans. Sometimes it is difficult to love them, but we can try at least to be grateful that they gave birth to and raised the most important person in our life. This is an extremely necessary thing for building a strong family. Ideally, we should try to know our future spouse before getting married, but living together will reveal the imperfections of both of us anyway. If the marriage was done, we are building a family not with a product of our own imagination, but with a real person. Therefore, we need to accept them the way they are, even if they are not the way we thought. Any person can be loved and must be loved. Also, love is not possible without freedom. We need to let the person we love be themselves. Pestering or pressuring our spouse means, I don't love you the way you are. You need to become someone else for me to be able to love you. That kills love in both spouses. We can love our spouse because our relationship did not happen by chance. If they want to change the way we want, we should thank God for that. We can delicately help them to continue on the path they started, but we should keep in mind it is our spouse's choice, not ours. When people begin to share the same bed, brush their teeth in the same bathroom, Inevitably, they discover each other's imperfections. Most times, they are not quite imperfections, but habits different from ours. What can we do? Should we solve the problem using force? If we love or want to love, we will gladly change our habits which make our spouse unhappy and adapt as much as we can. Everything we say and do is very important for our significant other, for it can prove how much we love or do not love them. Therefore, we need to treat them delicately, prudently. Words cause the deepest wounds. They need a longer time to heal than physical wounds and leave scars. If we keep in mind that love is what matters the most, we can control our emotions and not let anger take over and hurt the one we love. Most quarrels are put out by men, for they are calmer and wiser. During a fight, some men tell their wives, "I love you no matter what," or "I love you even when you behave like this." In this way, they win over their wives. Also, the wife should not be a toy devoid of will, driven by emotions, waiting to be stopped all the time during a quarrel. Everyone is able to control their emotions, and this can also be learned. If we love our spouse and do not want to make it difficult for them to love us, we will learn how to control our emotions. Most spouses do not reconcile after a quarrel, nor ask for forgiveness. What kind of love is this when the spouses hurt each other and continue to live with this burden? Each moment we spend in a state of resentment and discord kills love, destroys our relationship. Therefore, it is important to make up as soon as possible. There is a biblical saying, "Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry." We can make it our rule not to step into the next day carrying the burden of the quarrel we had the day before. Let's make up the same day we quarreled. It does not matter too much who is to blame for what happened, but it is important to reconcile. Most times, both parties are equally guilty. Therefore, asking for forgiveness for our share of the blame, we won't be hypocrites, and at the same time, we will make it easier for our spouse to repent. That is not a sign of weakness or guilty leniency regarding our spouse's weaknesses. The wiser is the first to seek reconciliation. We can learn to rejoice being at peace and loving, and not rejoice at the thought he or she is miserable as well. Some people are always upset and feel they are being treated wrongly. When facing a conflict, they keep saying to themselves, "Nobody loves me, nobody understands me," and they take refuge in a state of bitterness just as a kid hides in its cot. It is a safe place and he doesn't have to do anything, only to lie down and wallow in self-pity. That is a proof of immaturity and cowardice. The immature one cannot be a wife or a husband. It is too soon for such a person to get married. If he or she is already married, this habit must end immediately. We are not unhappy. We are like everybody else, and just like everybody else, we are not always right. For that reason, we need to have mercy and forgive the person closest to us. Between happiness, love, and the rotten pleasure of self-pitying, we should always choose the former. Love keeps no record of wrongs. If we find it difficult to forgive, we can repeat in our mind, "I forgive you," and we can also pray for our spouse. Sometimes it is not clear if we should overlook what happened in cases such as physical violence and infidelity. Both are very serious. Still, in some cases, we can and we must forgive. Many young married persons program themselves not to forgive in such situations. If he only raises his hand to hit me, I file for divorce right away. If she cheats on me once, we break up. But life is complicated. We cannot expect to walk on roads free of bumps all our lives and think everything will be ideal. Anything can happen, and to be able to make a right, flexible decision, it is better to avoid a rigidity of mind that always gets us to a dead end. If physical violence or infidelity happened, it is important to have two things in mind. First, what is wrong in our family life and with the way I behaved that led to such a situation? We need to correct our faults. And second, the one who made the mistake feels remorse and wishes to change their behavior. If our spouse feels remorse, let's try to find in our heart enough love to forgive them. We should keep in mind that we could have been tempted as well to cheat on our spouse. Am I absolutely sure I could have resisted? Can we find someone who will never fall? If we love our spouse, let's give them a second chance. If the spouse does not use this second chance, it is a different story. Allowing to be systematically aggressed or to be involved in a ménage à trois does not show our capacity to love and forgive. On the contrary, it is dependence and psychological pathology. Happily, we can defeat this pathology by regaining our human dignity. Many issues between spouses could be avoided if they started to see the situation from the other's point of view. One of the most valuable commandments the Bible teaches us is, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." A priest shared an interesting story. A woman came to him, described her family situation, and complained about her husband. The priest showed compassion and got angry at the husband. He asked her to bring him to church, and when the man came and told his version of the story, the priest's opinion changed. The husband was not a monster, and the wife was wrong about him. The priest learned not to draw any conclusion until he heard both parts. What does that mean? Each spouse is right, and their two righteousnesses can be made into one by a third part, a priest or a psychologist. We should constantly try to put ourselves in the other's place, to understand their interests, to think that maybe we do not give them enough attention, love, care, and if their happiness does not concern us, it means we don't love them. Some spouses are so far from understanding the essence of love and marital life that their egos are always fighting. Each shows the other that they do not want to serve but to be served. The husband fights with his wife to make things comfortable for him and vice versa, as if such a war can be won without losing love. True love is sacrificial. In a true marriage, the spouses think of the other's desires and try to anticipate them. If you fail to anticipate them, and the other speaks openly about their desires, the one who loves tries to give the loved one more than they asked for. Even if not all of us have experienced close, friendly relationships based on trust, we need to strive to build such a relationship in our own families. If we are not able to talk about what worries and troubles us, what remains unspoken accumulates inside, then resurfaces, creating conflict. Usually, the other does not understand what is at the heart of the conflict, because the force of our outburst is out of proportion to what seems to have triggered it. Also, we cannot explain it, then we continue to grow frustrated until we lash out again. To prevent this from happening, we better learn to talk to each other about what we feel. And since the other is the closest to us and they want us to be happy, why not give them a feedback to let them understand what we need? We can also give a feedback to let them know that what they did brought us joy. If something bothers us, we need to speak in such a way not to offend or to make our spouse become defensive. It can be done properly if we give messages in the first person. For example, do not say, "You are lazy, you do not make enough money." Try instead to say, "I am worried. I am not sure we have enough money to pay the rent if the landlord raises it." Anyone can learn to express their feelings this way. Thinking of committing adultery is committing it already in our heart, and it is a step towards divorce. Spouses who love each other pay attention not only to what they do, but also to what they think, dream, see. Our minds are feeble, and the distance between an innocent look at a beautiful body and the tragedy of abandoned children is not big. Sooner or later, most families are confronted with the following situation. In some families, it can happen several times. The flame has died. There is peaceful love between the couple. Suddenly, one of the spouses falls in love with another person, or to put it bluntly, is seized by temptation which is mistaken for love. What can be done? Adultery, guilty relationships cannot preserve a marriage. What follows is divorce and a new marriage. But to what end? Not being able to finish what we started, not having achieved perfect love with our first spouse, not having finished building our house, we knock it down and rebuild a new one? What if, while building the new house, we fall in love again with another person? Chances for that to happen are high. Sociologists have noted that a second marriage is more fragile than the first, and the third more fragile than the second. Is it any wonder? A single husband and a single wife for the rest of our lives. This is normal for humans. Consciously breaking that does not bring happiness. The love we begin to feel for someone else when we are married should be considered a temptation. Our answer should be, "I want to love my spouse and spend the rest of my life with him or her and the children." The new love we felt, which we sacrificed on the altar of our main love, adds up and increases love in our families. That is what many who have experienced that say. Spouses need to stand by each other at all levels, physical, spiritual, and of their souls. Physical does not mean sex only, but a whole range of touching which is more powerful than words. Living in the same house and sex life neither preserve feelings nor bring us closer. Sometimes spouses watch TV together, play computer games together, solve problems together, but talk less at a certain subtle level, which is very important for those who love each other. As a result, they slowly drift away from each other. TV plays an important part in the spouse's alienation. As the writer Ann Landers says, television has proved that people will look at anything rather than at each other. It is important to talk daily, to feel the other, to recreate unity and harmony between us. Closeness at spiritual level is achieved by sharing the same religious beliefs and practices and praying for each other. As soon as spouses are united at this level, the other two can be rebuilt and strengthened. If we feel harmony has been disrupted, that love has diminished, we should not resign ourselves to that. Let's see what caused that and bring harmony back. Most importantly, we must not believe the evil thoughts. Maybe we do not love each other anymore. Maybe we are not fit for each other anymore. These are lies, and they come from the father of lies, the devil. The fact that we declared our love for each other and became husband and wife does not mean we have won love once and for all, and does not prevent our spouse from asking themselves, "Does she still love me? Does he still love me?" We should prove our love for each other every day. We might not enjoy our spouse's preferred things like music, books, films, and so on. But if we want not to hurt them, we should respect what they value and avoid making them read, listen, or watch what we like. We should keep in mind that the one who loves does not hinder the freedom of the loved one. Why let our days pass by monotonously? We can rest, celebrate, create memorable events, invest our creativity to build our love continuously. If you found this useful, please share. Thank you for listening and God bless.